everyone. Welcome back again to our ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are continuing with the spring pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. And today I would like to begin, actually finishing the series, with a description of the various ways in which the Vrajavasis celebrate Holi to this very day. In Vrindavan, it is said that, quote, if someone plays Holi in Vrindavan, Radha and Krishna will fill their life with the joy of love and the colors of devotion. So in our last few lectures, we discussed the traditional way of observing Holi, which is throwing colored powders and squirting liquid dyes. Now, in olden times, meaning going back, several hundred years, the Vrajavasis used to use various pure substances to make the dyes for the powders and the liquids they used to play Holi. And I found the ingredients in the Vrindavan Research Institute. They used saffron, called keshar. They used a white scented powder known as choba, and a black powder called argaza. And it's said that that powder can make one blind with love. One of the ingredients. And of course they use sandalwood paste, chandan. They use vermilion in the ingredients, and it's kumkuma. And a pink colored powder called gulal, G-U-L-A-L. As well as colored water made out of boiling the spring flower called teshu. This flower only grows in spring, so they would boil that in water and use the essence of that water in the substances. And I read that teshu flower is a flower very dear to Kamadev. But because obviously these items are expensive these days, nowadays the Vrajavasis play Holi just with the pink colored substance called gulal. We mentioned that one substance in the list there, gulal. And gulal's made out of dry roses mixed with rice wheat and various perfumes. So there's the ingredients in the past and in the present. But aside from the method of throwing colored powders and dyes in syringes during Holi, there are 4 other prominent ways the Vrajavasis in Vrindavan observe this festival of colors. Holi translates into a festival of colors. And each of these 4 particular ways happen just once during Vrindavan spring and in separate places, 4 different places. Now these methods of observing Holi are all part of the Vrindavan culture, but I couldn't find any Shastric reference for how they all started or evolved through time. And even if Radha and Krishna played these kind of Holis. But they're certainly an integral part of Vrindavan today. And when you're in Vrindavan during Holi, you see the Vrajavasis play these types of Holi. So I'll mention them so you can understand them if you're ever in Vrindavan in springtime. So the first is called Latamar Holi, in which the ladies playfully strike their elder brother-in-laws with wooden sticks. I've seen this many times. It takes place in Varshana. And a second Holi is called Ladumar Holi, in which the cowherd boys and the gopis, they throw ladus at each other. I've also seen that. The first time I thought, wait, what about all those ladus? They throw ladus at each other. And this also takes place in Varshana. And a third type of Holi is played in Gokul. And it's called Chadimar Holi. Chadimar Holi, in which mothers playfully touch their sons with small thin sticks, like. And a fourth type of Holi, it's called Huranga, and it's played in the village of Dauji. There's a beautiful deity of Balaram in that village, big deity of Balaram. And the village is named after him. The village is called Dauji. And in this celebration, sisters-in-laws playfully attack their younger brother-in-laws with wet chotars. It's a riot. I've seen it. They have these wet chotars and they chase after their younger brother-in-laws. Yes, so these are 4 other ways the Vrajavasis play Holi. So officially, Holi starts 31 days after Vashanta Panchami, which we remember is the first day of spring. And the whole Holi celebration, it lasts 8 days actually. Altogether it's called Holi Ashtak, the 8 days of playing Holi. And just for our information, the first day of Holi is that Ladumar Holi in Varshana. The second day of Holi is the Latamar Holi, again in Varshana. The third day of Holi is a smaller version of Latamar Holi in Nandagaon. The fourth day of Holi is the color and flower Holi in the general Vrindavan town. The fifth day of Holi is the Holi of playing with small sticks that I mentioned in Gokul. The sixth day of Holi is a day of burning Holika. It's actually on the day of Gaur Purnima. That pastime we discussed in a previous lecture. The seventh day of Holi is played in all the other villages and forests of Vrindavan. And the eighth day of Holi is played with the wet chotars in the village of Dauji. So keep that in mind, and perhaps one day spend some time in Vrindavan during spring and attend all these 8 festivals. So the Holi festival fits well into Vrindavan spring. Why? Because both spring and the celebration Holi are bursting with a kaleidoscope of colors, you could say. A kaleidoscope of colors. Spring, with its newly blossomed flowers, and Holi, with its colored powders and dyes. They're both very colorful. And there's a wonderful pastime I came across connected to Vrindavan's spring flowers that I'd like to share with you. It's described that one spring morning, the gopis set out to explore it's described the fragrant and colorful Vrindavan. And they were just joyfully wandering from one forest garden to another. It's said that spring, the king of all seasons, I was reading, decorates every creeper, tree, garden, and meadow in Vrindavan with its flowers. But until it can offer its floral beauty to its queen, it feels melancholy and incomplete. It's so beautiful. So when the gopis arrived at a special grove, it was called, or is called, Maharaniya. These gopis were inspired to offer all of its wealth, the flowers, to its worshipable deity, Srimati Radharani, because as we know, Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan, Vrindavaneshwari. So the gopis sat Radharani on a golden throne, and they went about collecting all kinds of beautiful flowers in that grove. Spring had sprung. So they went about collecting all these flowers. Now, it's described, they collected the flowers whether budding, blossoming, or in full bloom. It's just a technical detail, but it's very beautiful. They collected flowers that were either budding, blossoming, or in full bloom. And what did they do with them? They set about making with them anklets, garlands, a crown, and other ornaments with flowers. It's an art the gopis are expert at. Everything with flowers. Like sometimes in our ISKCON temples, I think on Radhastami, isn't it? We make a full flower outfit for Radha and Krishna. So like that. We're getting trained up. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So Lalita and Vishaka, they directed the older girls, who in turn told their own assistants what kind of specific flower decorations to make. And all the while I was reading the girls, they happily chatted about what? Srimati Radharani's natural beauty. And as the ornaments were handed to them one by one, a few especially described clever girls, like Rupa and Rati, it said, placed them on Sri Radha, while others danced around the throne, singing and playing musical instruments. And when all the ornaments were in place on Radharani's limbs, she appeared like the Queen of Spring. The Queen of Spring. So therefore, at that time, the gopis started calling her Maharani. Maharani. And they named that place where she was adorned in such a beautiful way, Maharaniya. Maharaniya. Maharani. The Queen of Spring. And that pastime takes place in Maharaniya. And I was reading that in Braja, the title Maharani signifies more than just royal lineage. It's also awarded to gopis who, quote, rule over pure devotion. Isn't that nice? That title is given to gopis who rule over pure devotion. Thus Vaishnavas also honor Yamuna Devi and Tulsi Devi with the title Maharani. Now, Garga Samhita mentions that another time, when spring arrived in Vrindavan, all the gopis were overcome with the desire to celebrate by throwing colors. Springtime, Holi. However, Radharani was not in a festive mood at that time, and no one dared make any preparations for Holi without her. Their whole life, the gopis, is centered around Radha and Krishna. So one morning, all of Radharani's friends, they gathered together and they approached her. And they pleaded as follows. O Radhe, O lustrous beauty, O sweet Manini, O sweet Manini, please listen. Now is the time for the holy festival, and Krishna will come soon to your palace for celebrations. His friends are already at Pilipokar, that famous lake, Pilipokar, planning a big celebration. So then everyone looked out the window. And the gopis said, oh, just look now, Sri Radha. Here he comes, the son of Maharaj Nanda. Wow. They said to her, Radha, just see his enchanting eyes. They are dancing amidst his dark curly tresses, which are dangling over his lovely round cheeks. He is magnificently dressed, wearing a flowing yellow garment and golden inlaid anklets, which are tinkling so sweetly. Yasoda Maya has decorated him with a glittering crown. Just see, Radha, his earrings are shining through his garland like lightning in dark clouds. Holding a spraying syringe in his hands, he is fully drenched in red color. O Radhe, he is waiting for you. So it's written that as Krishna approached the palace, he stopped in front of the palace and he called out, Hey Radhe, hey Radhe, it's a lovely moonlit night. How can you be sitting inside? O Radhe, groups of gopis and gopas from all over Braj have gathered here for Holi. Now, she wasn't in a good mood, transcendentally good mood, but by hearing these words of Krishna, her heart melted. And surrounded by her lovely friends, she came out of the palace. I was reading, it's described as if a moon traversed through a pond of lilies. This is how Radha came out of the palace, as if a moon traversed through a pond of lilies. And the holy festivities began by throwing this gulal, this red-colored powder made from rose petals that I mentioned earlier, between the two teams. Who are the two teams? Obviously the gopas and the gopis. But when Krishna employed his pichakari, what's a pichakari? Pichakari is his spring syringe. That's the translation the Goswamis give, a spring syringe. The colors are not just thrown in powder form, but they're in liquid form through these syringes. You see them in the Pichwai paintings of Rajasthan. But when Krishna employed his pichakari, it failed to drench Sri Radha with color. She was just so expert at moving. So he couldn't hit her with the color. So the acharyas say, instead, what did he do? He sent her his love. He sent her his love. Vrindavan ki. But after some time, it's written, the acharyas write, it became apparent that Krishna's team was losing in this battle of Holi. So, to save his team from being defeated, Krishna desperately sprayed color over Radharani's closed eyes with the syringe. However, in the intricacies of rasa and performing these pastimes, through the acharya's eyes, we're blessed to see these things, this was not acceptable. According to the rules of Holi, you can't spray someone in the face, in the eyes, whether open or closed. So the acharyas conclude that Krishna was cheating. He was cheating. And as a result, they say, all the excitement and cheers vanished in an instant. Just everything came to a stop. Because Krishna cheated. You can't do that, spray in someone's eyes. So they put it so poetically, so beautiful, that just melts the heart. All the excitement and cheers of playing Holi vanished in an instant. Now, to resolve this critical issue, the case was taken where? To Lalita's court. Lalita is going to hold court and make a judgment here. So Lalita said, Krishna has certainly cheated. As such, he should be appropriately punished. He always tries to save himself by cheating. And our Radharani is well aware of this devious trait of his. Our Radharani is ever vigilant. So now, hearing all this, Krishna became embarrassed. It's described, he became extremely displeased with his behavior. He became submissive to Sri Radha. She has the Mahabhav to control Krishna. So Krishna came before Sri Radha and asked her for her pardon. But she was not in a mood to forgive. So Lalita loudly declared an appropriate punishment for Krishna. Everyone was just, the whole celebration stopped. You can imagine everyone in their tracks, and they're just not moving. They're just, listening to this, to Lalita in court. So what's the punishment? So Lalita said, the punishment is color Krishna's eyes with kajal. Because she had, he had covered Radha's eyes with the colored liquid. So she said, color his eyes with kajal. Kajal's that dark substance the ladies line their eyes with, kajal. So Sri Radha took some kajal, and with two of her fingers, she tried to apply it around Krishna's eyes. But the acharyas write that the moment she tried, Krishna turned his head away. So Sri Radha quickly put her arm around his neck, pulled him in real close, and applied the kajal. So she won. So afterwards, Krishna presented his pataka, his pakata. Pataka in Sanskrit means a waistband. He presented his waistband to Sri Radha, and then he returned home. It was a rule when there was competition that in any of these games, that the loser in any event had to surrender their waistband to the person who defeated them. Nice detail in Braj Leela. Hare Krishna. Let's see. There's also a holy pastime. You could say kind of an opposite pastime, if that's the proper way of phrasing it, where Sri Radha and the gopis, they go from Varshana to Nandagram for Holi. We just discussed Krishna coming from Nandagram to Varshana with his friends. So in this particular pastime, Radha and her gopis, they leave Varshana to go play Holi with Krishna in Nandagram. It's a similar pastime, but there's always differences. But I wanted to mention that as they traversed through the forest to Nandagram, the gopis sang a particular song which is quite famous in Vrindavan. And it goes like this. Darshan de mora mukuta hare darshan de. It's Vrajavasi. Chanda suraja tero dhyana dharat hain jan dhare no lakitare. Galabai jhanti bala sohe kanana main kundala vare. Listen to this. Krishna, please give us your darshan. You wear a crown with a peacock feather. The moon, sun, and millions of stars also meditate on your unique personality. The earrings in your ears and the garland around your neck, made of Vajjayanti flowers, look so wonderful. Hare Krishna. Yes. So now, when in Varsana or Nandagram for Holi, I was reading, there's always a public gathering. You know, all the Vrajavasis want to come and see whether Holi is being played in Varshana or Holi is being played in Nandagram. There's always a big crowd that comes to watch, and obviously sometimes participate. And during that time, there's a special gathering where the Vrajavasis sing many songs. As the pastime's actually happening, the tradition is the Vrajavasis would sing songs to facilitate the emotions, the spiritual emotions in the hearts of those who are taking place. This is real culture. These types of performances, musical performances that elicit deep spiritual feelings of love. Now, one of these songs vividly describes the pastime of Holi. And I found that its mood is captured by our illustrious Acharya, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. In his book, he wrote one book called Radharasa Sudhanidhi. It's quite a deep book. Radharasa Sudhanidhi. And I found an appropriate verse, text 96, to capture this mood of the songs that the Vrajavasis sing while Holi is taking place. And it's text 96. In Sanskrit, Kalindi tata kushja mandir ghato yogendra vajat pada jyotir janpar sada japati prema shura punar hariki kenyapya madbhut mula sada tir sa nanden samohita sa radeti sada rudi sput ratu me vidyapara dhvata keshara. So beautiful. Listen to this. Quote, this is how they're singing, the Vrajavasis, during Holi. May the two syllables Radha with Krishna sitting like the king of yogis in a cottage near the bank of the Jamuna in Mansarovar, meditating on her lotus feet, being overcome with the most splendid, blissful, and nectarian love, appear in my heart and in my eyes, filled with tears as a result of chanting his name at all times. I'd just like to repeat that again. May the two syllables Radha with Krishna, sitting like the king of yogis in a cottage near the bank of the Jamuna in Mansarovar, meditating on her lotus feet, being overcome with the most splendid, blissful, and nectarian love, appear in my heart and in my eyes, filled with tears, as a result of chanting his name at all times. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati ki jai. Okay, here's one last spring pastime. It's going to be hard leaving springtime, isn't it? But we're going to be speaking in the next week or so, 2 weeks, about summer. So in Krishna consciousness, the future is always bright. So this last pastime, actually I'd like to share before before ending our series on springtime in Vrindavan, and that is a pastime that takes place in Phalena. Phalena. Phalena is a small forest where the gopis, and it's mentioned sometimes the gopas, would play Holi. Now the acharyas say that on one special occasion at that place, Radha and Krishna became, how's it put, mere playthings of their girlfriends. Radha and Krishna became mere playthings of their girlfriends. So at the center of Phalena, there's a very large banyan tree, beneath which sits a throne. It's described a throne fit for the king and queen of Vraja. A throne fit for the king and queen of Vraja. And the ground around the throne is paved with gems. I was reading that outshine those in Indra's court, obviously. Outshine those of Indra's court at Svargaloka. It's mentioned that in the heart of spring, a group of gopis once asked Radha and Krishna to sit upon that throne. Come sit upon this throne and allow them, their girlfriends, to show them unrestrained love. The gopis wanted to show Radha and Krishna unrestrained love. We worship the gopis because they have that pure Amala Bhakti, that pure unselfish love for Radha and Krishna. So when you love someone, you want to show that love. So they asked Radha and Krishna, please sit on this throne. We want to show you, demonstrate our unrestrained love. So the divine couple agreed, and as they sat down on the throne, some gopis began playing musical instruments. Others were singing songs about the divine couple's mutual love and unlimited qualities, while others covered Radha and Krishna with red, vermilion, and blue dye. Red, vermilion, and blue dye. And other gopis, they approached the throne, and one after another, they gently smeared a little bit of a colored dye on Radha and Krishna's faces. You see that in Holi. It starts off kind of slowly. You put some dye on your friend here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and after a while, you just throw. And that's what happened. As the music sped up and the songs got louder, the gopis sprinkled dye all over the divine couple's bodies. And as it's described, the jubilant exchange reached a climax. The gopis used these syringes, with colors, and not just little throwing some dye, but they used what's described as flower bombs of dye, flower bombs of colored powder, to cover Radha and Krishna, so much so that they became indistinguishable from their throne and from each other. In fact, it's said the entire area surrounding the banyan tree was engulfed in a cloud of gulal, we mentioned gulal, rising higher and higher into the air until it could be seen by what? Amused Vrajavasis from as far away as Nandagram. I love that detail. This cloud that rose up. We were discussing in other lectures how this cloud of the holy powders rises into the air. And this time it rose so high into the air it could be seen by amused Vrajavasis from as far away as Nandagram. And while all this was going on, Radha and Krishna sat hand in hand, apparently unaffected, but subtly responding with how it's described, submissive smiles and glances to the laughter, gaiety, and affection of their friends. This is love is reciprocal. So, this place is called Phalena, where the gopis, it's described, showcased the result, Phalena, of their loving devotion. Now, it's said that by going there, one can understand these truths and thereby gain inspiration for realizing them in one's own life. That's the benediction from going to Felina. So let's go there. Let's put it on our list of things to do that in order to become fully Krishna conscious. So, dear Prabhus, this concludes, it's so hard. This concludes our lectures on springtime in Vrindavan. And next week, as I mentioned, we'll begin a series on summertime in Vrindavan. And I very much hope and pray that our 7 springtime lectures have given pleasure to all of you. And in that mood, that prayer and inspiration, I'll finish with a very beautiful verse from the Sri Prapana Jivanam Ritam, from Sri Prapana Jivanam Ritam, 10:14. So beautiful. Quote, during the festival of relishing the nectar from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, drops of nectar fall from the mouth of the bees as they hum the glories of the Lord in an intoxicated mood. For my own supreme benefit, I have carefully gathered some of those drops of nectar herein. In this way, I serve the dust of the feet of those great devotees again and again. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Be back in a few days. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sham.